This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. My name is Shawn. I'm an innovation strategist. What we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life. Oh, wow. Hey everyone, my name is Shawn. This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. In this podcast, what we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life. And this podcast, like every single other podcast, is going to change your life. I have some dangerous ideas for you that I've been meditating on over the last number of weeks. And I'll start with the first one. Just get right to it, which is die boldly. I want you to die boldly. An incredible statement, by the way. That might be the topic of my next book, which is Die Boldly. I was on the plane last night and I was meditating on all the things I've been doing over the last number of weeks. Part of the reason why I've been meditating is because I have been on the road a lot. I've been working my ass off and just being on all these planes, no power cord, and just alone with my thoughts. And one of the things that I've been writing down is all the things that I want to do, that I want to accomplish, not only in life, but as a father, as a friend, as a husband. Last night I was looking up on X the top 5 regrets that people share on their deathbeds. And I'll share you the top 5 things, and I will reflect on why I believe you should die boldly. So number 1 was people saying, I'd wish I'd had the courage to live a true life to myself, not the life others expected of me, which is this idea of not being beholden to what others want, their expectations. Number 2 is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. As I've just told you that I worked my ass off. Number 3, I'd wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had let myself be happier. Those are the top 5 things that people shared. Many people have done this study where they talk with nurses of people that are on their deathbeds. And these are the top 5 things that have come out. I don't know if you've ever been beside somebody on their deathbed. It is a incredibly memorable and heartbreaking thing. I remember being beside my father on his deathbed and literally watching as he died. And I remember literally him writing together like this will on this like piece of paper on this napkin, and he didn't have a proper will, which is crazy because he was an accountant. And you can imagine me going to all these banks, to all these lawyers afterwards with this will and trying to put the pieces together. After he died, I took over his business. Literally the next day, I got into his business, opened his door, took over 200 different clients. I remember every single day, like I put on this outfit. Like I'd actually dress up. I'd wear like a tie, and I'd get into his office the next day. And my dad left this world way too short. And anyways, the reason why I'm telling you all this is because I was on the flight last night and I was thinking to myself to die boldly, which is the idea that when I'm on my deathbed, I want to make sure that I led a bold life, that I was able to leave zero regrets, that I was able to do the things that made me uncomfortable, that pushed myself, that I maximize my opportunity with my kids, that I maximize the opportunity with my friends. So last night, if I'm reading the regrets and I'm writing down, sort of what I believe Die Boldly is all about, I started to text some of my friends and, luckily, I have some incredible friends. I have an incredible network. But sometimes you forget. You're in your moment, you're working, you're traveling, whatever it might be. And sometimes it's difficult to connect with everybody. But, I was able to send out those messages and to book, appointments with folks and make sure that, because that's important. Also with your kids, like making sure that like I'm always giving them the energy. And the only thing I've been thinking about over the last number of weeks is like thinking about my kids and saying, how can I give them the most energy possible when I'm with them, and making sure that they know that I'm there for them. When it comes to my business, like I know I could be on autopilot, and I also know that I need to continue to make shots. So that's about living boldly. So all these things are about dying boldly, right? Which is maximizing your efforts with your friends and family, living your life as fully as you can, and dying boldly, doing things that allow you to be bold. And I think this is a powerful concept, and I'm gonna hopefully list down some more ideas around what dying boldly really means. But I thought I would just share that thought with you as I was thinking about this last night. And I think the main piece when it comes to the idea of die boldly is obviously zero regrets, obviously pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. But I think the other thing is the reminder that everyone is going to die at the end of the day. Like, you are going to die. So it's like, imagine, this is not a new concept, but like, imagine you're going to die tomorrow. What are the things that you want to do today to make that happen? And so to me, that's what die boldly really means. All right. Next dangerous idea. I'm going to give you a ton of reasons why cultural relevance is everything. And I'm going to break down some economics of how other entities spend money for cultural relevance. I just went on a deep dive of all these different entities, families, individuals that spend an enormous amount of money on cultural relevance. When I was in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, I went to this hotel. It's called the Atlantis Hotel in Dubai. They spent $1.4 billion on the Royal. They also spent $1.5 billion on another part of the hotel called the Palm. They spent $24 million to get Beyonce to do a private concert at the opening of the Royal. Just incredible, insane. Why would you... Beyonce making $24 million just to do a concert there is absolutely insane. Why would they spend that much money on a hotel, that much money on Beyonce? And I continue to be inspired by these developers, by these builders, by these creators that just build astonishing things and assume that people are going to come. And by the way, when I was in Dubai, I did come. I did go to the Royal because I wanted to check it out. What was the hype about? And it was an absolutely beautiful hotel. And I'll tell you a little bit about the story as to what happened at the Atlantis Hotel. So I met somebody last summer, and he is the IT director at the Atlantis, the Royal. And he said, next time you're in Dubai, send me a note and I will take you around. I said, perfect. So I'm in Dubai. I had an extra day in Dubai. Never happens. I never had an extra day anywhere, but I had an extra day. A friend and I, we go to the hotel. And then here's the thing about Dubai. There's so much security there. There's tons of security everywhere. We get to the Atlantis, and I kind of realized, wait a minute, are they going to let us in? Because, in most hotels around the world, you can just enter into any hotel and just work from there, just millie about. So we get to the front, and the security guard asks us, what's your room number? And my friend's like, well, we don't have a room. And the security guard says, well, you can't be here without a room number. And he says, well, we're meeting somebody. And the guy's like, oh, okay, so you're just meeting in the lobby? And he was like, yeah. He's like, okay, what's your friend's name? And my friend, my friend's like, what's your client's name again? And I didn't want to say my client's name because I don't know, maybe the guy knows him. So I said Kevin Hart. I don't know why I said Kevin Hart. I was listening to a podcast with Kevin Hart and Trevor Noah. I said Kevin Hart, and the Bangladeshi security guard was like, okay, sure. He wrote down Kevin Hart. And then we got in, and I felt incredibly nervous because now we're here in Dubai. I don't know, you might get arrested. I have no idea. So we're walking around this beautiful hotel, and it wasn't that busy, but every part of the hotel, there was a security guard. And I swear to God, every time we would walk by, they would message to each other. They would turn away and message to each other as if we were perpetrators, and we definitely were. And then we went to the lobby. We had a coffee. It was a beautiful hotel. Somebody got us coffee, and then 20 minutes later, this woman comes up to us and says, just for security purposes, can we get your name and your phone number? I'm like, okay. So we gave it. And I felt like after the coffee was done, I'm like, we got to get out of here. If the police come, I got to get back home, okay? So we left. But the beautiful part was just seeing how audacious and how incredible that was. And I'm inspired. They built something so incredible, so awe-inspiring, so mesmerizing for cultural relevance, for having a landmark in Dubai. Just absolutely incredible. In fact, that goes to the entire city of Dubai. The fact that they built this incredible, they turned this fishing village into this incredible financial hub is actually incredibly awe-inspiring. It reminds me of another cultural relevance play from the Ambani wedding. The Ambanis, you may have been following this wedding over this last year, they spent $600 million for this wedding. Every celebrity on the planet went to this wedding. The Kardashians, Zuckerberg, you name it. I saw John Cena there. Why is John Cena at this wedding? How is he at this Indian wedding? Everybody went to this wedding. And $600 million for the Ambani family is a drop in the bucket because they make $123 billion. So I get it. It's a drop in the bucket for their net worth. But was it a genius move for cultural relevance for the Ambani family and for their business to do this? I think it was, because it's a drop in the bucket, and it was a way for them to have this lightning strike, to have this moment, this wedding where everyone was paying attention. They brought every celebrity out there, and it shined a light on India, on the Ambani family, and it gave them cultural relevance. Because before this, I don't think anybody even heard of the Ambanis outside of if you're India or if you're Indian. And it absolutely gave them cultural relevance. So people will pay for cultural relevance. Steph Curry. The Warriors just extended Steph Curry with a $62 million extension. Just absolutely insane. At 38 years old, he's going to make $62 million. Why? Why would you pay money for Steph Curry when at 30, is he going to be that good? He might be, because the way that he shoots is phenomenal, and actually it ages very well. But also it's cultural relevance. Like, Steph Curry is a cultural god, like, in the NBA. Like, he has the reason why he's a cultural god is because he's changed the culture of the NBA. He's not only changed the game of the NBA, but he's changed the culture. The fact that more and more people shoot threes, the fact that more and more kids are wearing Steph Curry, uniforms. He's culturally relevant for the Warriors and the NBA. I mean, I just watching the U.S. France game a number of weeks ago in the Olympics, gold medal game, watching Steph Curry drain 4 buckets, 4 threes to win the ultimate gold medal. It was a religious, spiritual experience watching that. I remember watching it at my friend's house, and literally I could not stop getting up and just like cheering and being in disbelief. For days after, I just want to hear commentary and the analysis of what he did. Like, he's culturally relevant. So it makes sense that the Warriors spent $62 million on Steph Curry. Let's keep on going on cultural relevance. The Sphere reminds me of also the Ambani wedding and the Atlantis. They spent $2.3 billion on the Sphere. In the last quarter, they made $170 million. What's interesting is that $101 million was generated from the film, like the in-house film that they have there, which is called Postcard from Earth. And they made $101 million off this one show. The other revenue comes $33 million from the external ads, like you see on the Sphere. They put external ads on there. And then $34 million from the U2 concert. The Sphere makes no sense. It is a venue that very few people on the planet can actually play. If you think about it, which artist is using, other than me, which artist is using all those graphics in their shows? Comedians, rock stars, you name it. People that are selling out arenas, people that are selling out stadiums, they're not using that level of graphics in their particular shows. Like, who is this thing built for? But they built this $2.3 billion venue, and they're actually making decent money. Because guess what? When you build something so awe-inspiring, when you do something incredible, people will want to see it. It gives you cultural relevance. In one of the last chapters of my book, The Bold Ones, I talk about the idea of the Vince Carter effect. What is the Vince Carter effect? When I was a kid, when Vince Carter was in the dunk competition, and he did his series of dunks, the last of which was, not the last of which, but the most incredible dunk was when Tracy McGrady bounced it off the floor. Vince Carter did a through the legs windmill, said it's over. Kenny Smith saying it's over, and then Vince Carter does the cut your head expression. The Vince Carter moment was a moment that was so electric that it froze the world. Like everybody was talking about that. This was like pre-social media, and it was something that people have never seen before. Now, flash forward to 2024, if you've done those Vince Carter dunks today, I mean, that's just the scroll, right? People on Instagram doing those dunks today. But back in the day, that froze the world over. I remember my brother and I like taping that because we were at this cultural event, this puja, and we taped the dunk competition and we watched it on replay, and we could not stop watching it. I'm so glad that we taped it. And it was incredible. Just watching what he did was absolutely incredible. And the Vince Carter effect is the idea that you do something so awe-inspiring, you do something so out of this world that it actually draws people to what you are doing, and it creates momentum. The reason, after Vince Carter did this dunk, it put Canada on the map. It put the Raptors on the map. All these Canadians that were watching this, even though Vince Carter's not even Canadian, all these Canadian basketball stars, I believe, rose up and wanted to play basketball because they saw Vince Carter do his thing and literally light the world on fire. He did something so awe-inspiring, so mesmerizing that the world has to take notice. And, I think sometimes if you want to get cultural relevance, you either do something amazing or you spend the money to make that happen. It's the reason why the Saudis have spent so much money on football, getting people like Cristiano Ronaldo, why they've invested into live golf, because soccer, golf, it's part of culture. And if Saudi wants to be relevant on the global stage, one of the best ways to do that is through sports, because sports is a gateway to shaping culture. And so part of the reason why why you want to shape culture is because it gets eyeballs. When you're culturally relevant, that's what marketing is all about. It's about being culturally relevant at the end of the day. And when you're culturally relevant, you are able to generate revenue. You're able to, it reduces your cost per acquisition, meaning it reduces your cost for acquiring a new user, a listener, a customer, a client. Being culturally relevant is super important, especially in a very noisy world today. By the way, another company that is actually secretly culturally relevant, like in the underground, and these numbers blew me away. This is kind of like a throwaway, by the way. This is not I don't have a dangerous idea around this being culturally relevant. I just thought that it was fascinating, and because I just saw it. This was a tweet from Matthew Ball, great author, really great thinker when it comes to the metaverse and digital communities. Matthew Ball tweeted out the P&L, profit and loss, of OnlyFans over the last number of years. In 2023, before I preface this, OnlyFans has got to be one of the greatest businesses of all time. They are going to study OnlyFans in Harvard. OnlyFans in 2023, users spent $6.6 billion. They paid out $5.3 billion to creators. They made $1.3 billion in net revenue. Here's the kicker. They made $820 million in gross profit. On $1.3 billion of net revenue, they made $820 million in gross profit, $650 million in operating revenue. What does this mean? It means it's an incredible business. It's a business that crushes. What? I I need to understand this OnlyFans business. Okay? I am going on OnlyFans. As a creator, I'm going on it because I need to understand what is happening. How is this possible? This is what I love about the world is that I do not understand platforms like OnlyFans and how it's relevant because I don't understand the behavior of like paying for a digital girlfriend. But it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's not only digital girlfriends, by the way. It's digital boyfriends. It's digital whatever. I don't want to be, I got in trouble before about that. That's a long story, but like, I'm just saying. Digital boyfriends, digital girlfriends, whatever. And just like community, right? I think that's what they market themselves as, is community. Okay, I'm incredible. So listen, all this to be said is spending money to be culturally relevant is a playbook that has worked. All right, next dangerous idea. Be the easiest person to work with and you will never go hungry. Be the easiest person to work with and you will never go hungry. I've been reflecting on, my success over the years. And one of the things that my agency always tells me is that I am the easiest person to work with. Now, am I the best person to work? Am I the best person for the job? Maybe not. Am I the best speaker? Am I the best? Maybe not. But I try to be the easiest person to work with, meaning I'm not a diva. I am so reliable. I am on time. I respond to emails right away. I am going above and beyond. I'm trying to be the easiest person to work with. That's just in my nature. And what I've realized is that sometimes you don't even have to be incredible. Sometimes you just have to be really easy to work with and you'll never go hungry. And I've been reflecting on this because over the last, I'd say a couple of months, there's this one event that I have to go to. I'm not going to say where, but I don't have a contract for it yet. And it's a big contract in a very far away place. And the client has not given me a contract yet. And there's been so much back and forth. There's been 10 times the amount of back and forth on this one than any other thing that I've ever had. And the only thing that I've been doing is just being like, yep. I just got an email, by the way, from literally 5 minutes ago, or not 5 minutes ago, but right before I joined this call. And she said this. After a travel agent looked further into it, he let me know that we can't actually do a non-refundable flight without being on the hook for the full amount. Another wrinkle we've run into is that these flights are now $15,000. But you discussed a $7K flat fee. Let me know your thoughts on this. By the way, there's another clause on this, blah, 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 blah. And all I said was no worries, my mistake. Let's proceed with being on the hook on the flights. I'm happy to take the hit on the flights. I was under the original assumption that blah, blah, blah. And just saying, it's all good. Let's move forward. I feel like sometimes in life, there's so many details that, you know what? Some of these details don't really matter. It's about the broader picture. And I'm trying to do that at every step. It's just trying to be the easiest person to work with. And it's actually worked out. If you just say, yeah, I'm going to do that. Yes, I'm going to be here. Respond with being direct and being responsive. It will just help you. Okay. And you know why? because people will be like, you know what? I'm just going to go with Shawn on this one because he's just really easy to work with. I remember actually there was an event in Cartagena that I had to go to. I wasn't the number one pick to go there. But because the other person was such a headache, they decided to go with me because they're like, Shawn is not going to complain about this, and let's just go with him. And guess what? I got the job. So all this to be said, be the easiest person to work with, and you'll never go hungry. Next dangerous idea. This is from Tim Cook. Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple, one of the greatest leaders of our generation, one of the greatest shareholder builders of all time, I guess, or stock price builders of all time, taking what Steve Jobs have done and done incredibly well with it. He hated this quote about when you're passionate about it, like it won't feel like work. He doesn't like that quote. His quote is this: you will work harder than you ever thought possible, but the tools will feel light in your hands. I love that quote. It's the idea that the more that you become entrenched in a particular field, a craft, a calling, that the tools will feel light in your hand. And it makes sense. And it probably, it relates to the 10,000 hours rule as well. You spend 10,000 hours in a particular field, you start to get in flow. You start to, you end up doing something that is, like, especially if you're working at a world-class level, it actually looks easy. The hard things actually look easy. My son actually had an amazing quote. He's 5 years old. He had an amazing quote. And he said that hard things are easy and easy things are hard. Hard things are easy and easy things are hard. And I said, you are absolutely right. Hard things are easy and easy things are hard. What does he mean by that? Well, what I actually think, I don't know what he means by that, to be honest with you. But I'll tell you why my 5-year-old is correct. The reason why hard things are easy is because very few people are willing to do the hard things. So the reason why it's easy is because you have fewer competitors around you. The reason why hard things are easy is because when you are in a field, when you are in a category of one, you're not chomping at this pie that everybody's chomping at, and it actually becomes easy. You can eat the whole pie. But if you do easy things, it becomes hard because you're competing with other people. And so by striving to do hard things, you will create a monopoly, or you will be in a category with very few other players, and then it becomes a lot easier. So the goal, I think, in business is to try to do something very hard, or if you are a solo practitioner, or let's say you are working within an organization and you're not a founder or an entrepreneur, the key is to find something that you love that feels like play to you that other people find incredibly difficult. Find something that looks like play to you that other people find difficult, because it's so hard that you will be in a category of a very few number of people. So shout out to Dion, my 5-year-old. Hard things are easy, easy things are hard. Amazing, incredible. Last dangerous idea. This idea is that we underestimate the power of tangible products. We underestimate the power of tangible products. Yesterday, I did a keynote for RBC. It's the largest bank in Canada. And I told them a story about the biggest fight that I've ever had with my wife. This is the biggest fight that I've ever had. And it had to do with our bank accounts. Now, as context, when I was a kid, when my parents opened up the bank account for my brother and I, it was at the Royal Bank of Canada. And you may not remember this, but when you got a bank account, what they gave you was this passbook. It was an RBC blue passbook. And what they would do with this passbook is they would print your balance on the passbook. And every time that you would accumulate more money, it would be registered on this passbook. So this passbook became a manifestation of your future, of your potential, and of your dreams. And when my wife and I got married, of course, you have to, well, if you don't do this, I think it's a dumb idea, but you should consolidate your financial accounts, right? You should have at least a joint savings account or a joint checking account, for all your, I shouldn't be giving this information. This is like a financial advisor's information, but generally that's what people do. They have a joint account. So the question was, which bank are we going to use? Because she came from a different bank and I come from this bank. And I had so much affinity for this bank, maybe because this tangible product is something that I remembered, right? This was, the bank that I had was so close to me because I remembered this passbook. There were so many memories about accumulating, money in this passbook over the years. And now when my wife is saying that we need to change bank accounts, I mean, this was a hard decision. I could not do it. And eventually I compromised. And because my wife Deepa is way better at finance than me, way smarter than I am, I kept part of RBC, and then, we're at another bank as well. We're actually now at a series of banks. But part of the reason why I didn't want to let it go is because of that tangible product. It had so much weight and brand affinity associated with it. And if I think about other industries that have had physical manifestations of what that represented, I feel like that actually brings loyalty. Like, part of the reason why I believe that more and more people are fickle when it comes to music is because when you hear music on a streaming platform, it's very easy to switch to another, artist, switch to another song. But when you had a CD, when you had a physical album, when you had a vinyl, you literally have the album cover in your hands. And I believe that drives way more loyalty than just like popping on a streaming, popping Drake on a streaming platform. I believe that those artists had way more affinity with their fans because of that physical manifestation. This is why, retail companies, I think, were incredibly successful back in the day because they had a physical catalog. It's the reason why I had so much affinity towards Sports Illustrated, because back in the day, I got these beautiful Sports Illustrated magazines, and that drove loyalty. You have something in your hand. And I think that sometimes we forget that in a digital world and in an AI-driven world where everything is a bit, that actually when everything becomes so transactional, when everything becomes left and right like a Tinder app, we become more fickle. And so what this means is that I actually think that like a physical object, a tangible object today, like in a very digital world, can actually drive incredible value. So what does this mean? Like for a retailer, I actually think that having like a catalog is not a bad idea. I think actually an online company, an online media company having a physical publication is actually not a bad idea. I actually think a newsletter, like a Substack, a Beehive, a ConvertKit newsletter could actually have like a physical newsletter that's like a printed newsletter. And I saw this with my book that, I put out a lot of videos. I do the things like this. You're watching this, you're listening to this in the car. But actually having a book in your hands, people have like a deeper connection with it. Like I can see it. The people that actually read the book have such a deeper connection with it. It's really interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think in digital, you can create a deeper connection. It's the part of the reason why I love long form video, because it drives deeper connection. I was telling this to my friend that there's a podcaster. Her name is Coach P. I actually did a couple sponsored podcasts on her channel. Coach P, Pammy, she is a podcaster she's based out of Calgary, and she's a makeup artist. She's got this incredible podcast called Coach's Own Play. And she doesn't have a massive following, but her following is so deep because of the podcast. People listen to her all the time. Like brown girls will stop me and be like, hey, actually, they didn't watch any of my content. They'd be like, I heard you on the Coach P podcast. I wasn't even a guest on the podcast. I just promoted the podcast like 5 times. And they're like, I remember you being on the podcast. I was telling my friend yesterday, like, Coach P like reposted me on a story. I messaged her anyways. She reposted something that I said on her story. I got so many followers just off that repost, which was nuts. And I was telling my friend, I said, I bet if I walk around Surrey Mall with a Coaches Don't Play sweatshirt, that I could get married immediately. Because just the amount of brown girls that listen to this is incredible. She has such a deep connection, such an intimate connection with her audience. It's incredible. I actually think she's going to be a billionaire because people love her, and they should. Her podcast is amazing, and she's great. She's fantastic. So I think podcasts drive so much like loyalty, because it makes sense. You're being vulnerable, you're being authentic, you're being yourself, you're being genuine. People are listening to you. You're in their eardrums. So I think in a digital world, that actually makes a lot of sense. But also, I believe in tangible products, tangible goods I actually think that's going to have a comeback. So, listen, thank you so much for rocking with me on the Dangerous Ideas Pod. I actually thought this was awesome. I actually thought this was great. And rate, review, subscribe, whatever you got to do. And the last thing I will say is die boldly. See you on the next one.